Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Welcome to the Dr. Sophia Rothschild Show. And today I'm very pleased to have with us a very special guest, Brianna Morales. She is with the Always in Action Coalition and doing amazing work in San Francisco and trying to wake up San Francisco to start building my housing for change. So, first of all, welcome to the show. And talk to us about your organization, how it was started, and what are some of the major things it's working on going forward?
Sure. First, thank you for having me. I'm really happy to be here. Like you said, it's important to kind of, I think, spread awareness into what we're doing. And so, yeah, my name is Brianna Morales. I am the San Francisco organizer for the Housing Action Coalition. And we are a statewide organization that really hopes to work towards building housing at all income levels, to tackle the housing crisis across California. Um, we are pretty lucky to have a pretty unique position in the housing space. So we bring together all parts of the home body industry, developers of all, income levels, affordable and market rate, architects, general contractors unions, land use attorneys, planners, and more to work on housing solutions. Right now, we're really focusing on local and statewide efforts. Um, and all of this is with the intention of creating a more diverse, fair, inclusive, equitable housing system. Yeah, and so we're really focusing on some of the big pieces of this, namely the rezoning that's going to be happening, and a lot of people are expressing that financially it's pretty difficult to get housing built. So we're working on creative and innovative solutions to try to make the ecosystem a little bit better so that we could actually get projects built.
Yeah, because it's interesting. One thing that in the past people use the idea of or this for the property is historic, so we can demolish it, even though it's a little one-story building right smack in the middle of nowhere, and it's dilapidated, rotten away, and they just use anything to block all form of production of housing. So, what are some of the ways how you what are some of the ways the organization is designing to counter people who just try to use these to go for historical uh,
Mhm.
the historical title to kind of block some projects?
For sure. Um, I it's been really interesting. I really try to connect with people and understand their point of views and arguments. And for the most part, I would say that I like to look at things as if we're all trying to do things to help San Francisco. And so listening to others' arguments, I think that, the Housing Action Coalition is definitely understanding of why parts of San Francisco are historic and why they are important. And these, there's a lot of buildings and trademarks that should be protected. But for the most part, we also advocate for good research and good analysis of these sites. And so our perspective is that we want to help San Francisco because of the people who live in San Francisco. And when people are not able to access safe, healthy, sustainable homes, that's a big problem. So some of the things that we're doing is I cannot stress enough education. What does it mean to preserve? What does it mean when something's historic? What does it mean when we are worried about building homes in your neighborhood? I think that for the most part, a lot of concerns come from a genuine, worry or genuine fear. And we're really just like, hey, I understand that this is something that might be new or something where you're looking at other areas of San Francisco and you're wondering if it's going to happen to you. And we really just want to meet people where they're at and come to a solution that allows the housing production to continue while at the same time um, making sure that we're really walking through the pieces of what that looks like.
Yeah, excellent. Because I know so, one thing that, and I think housing construction also ties in the notion of public safety.
Hmm.
People think their area is not safe, people would not want to build in the area. So we also work with like other organizations that is push that are focusing on the public safety aspect, and they would make sure that people are safe. Because, because if people feel they're not safe, they won't build. Okay.
Hmm.
So does the organization coordinate with say other organizations that deal with the aspect of public safety?
Yeah, I think that's a really big part of this that isn't really talked about enough is that people, well, when someone asks me what sustains a neighborhood, what actually allows a neighborhood to be healthy, um, and thrive so that we're not just building homes in inaccessible points and there's no transit, there's no small businesses, there's no access to actually being able to sustain that life. And it's really healthy neighborhoods. Are people communicating with each other? Are we looking out for each other? Are we supporting small businesses? Is there enough transportation and muni services? So we actually do a lot of project advocacy that really concentrates on creating a thriving, vibrant neighborhood. And so there are so many organizations that have um, that have different specific focuses. So we just partnered with the SF Transit writers where they were talking about the Muni funding crisis. We worked with Walk SF where they were talking about pedestrian safety. We also advocate for office to conversion to help the downtown scene recover. So it kind of depends on what's going on. We are always open to working with other organizations, and for the most part, we find out about things because they come to us and they say, "Hey, can we count on you for support? Can you show up to this hearing? Can you write a letter?" And so that's like that partnership is really important to this work because, we're very much in the production of housing, and it's really hard to know what's going on in all of the other levels without those important partnerships.
Excellent. Because one thing that I've always been seeing over the years is that a lot of times there's a lot of money being spent. For example, San Francisco, they fill up all different agencies and nonprofits. Over almost $1 billion is spent every year on dealing with the issue of unhoused people,
Hmm.
and yet the problem is not being solved because the money is being siphoned off into um, all these office, you know, and office workers, and the thing that they need to do most, i.e., build more housing, it's been sidelined. So I know the objective is to build more housing and affordable housing or level of housing. Do you
Hmm.
also take a look at how they can better spend the money um, in dealing with the homeless issue? Because that's also, because if they can spend the money correctly, they can also that's also another way to build more housing.
Yeah, that's really well said. I actually just got back from a conference, the Housing California conference, where I went to maybe two or three panels that was discussing a statewide initiative to, solve the housing, the homelessness crisis and to prevent homelessness and not just be reactive, but really the prevention of people ending up in dangerous situations where they don't want to be in those situations. Um, I think the key and the heart to this is also understanding that without healthy people, homes and mental health and the way that we spend public dollars is always going to be kind of broken. And so when we have people that have access to healthcare, and when we allow people to be able to visit doctors and hospitals and get access to the needs that they want and they need, we can put more dollars into building affordable homes, and we could put more dollars into the housing production cycle. As you know, California's and San Francisco is going through quite we're dealing with the budget and with a lot of uncertainty happening on the federal level, on the state level, in response to that. I think San Francisco is in a uh, important time to really look at how we're allocating funds. And once we have healthy people, I think that's the heart of the argument, really. I think that's the heart of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's a very good point. But to state now, I know a lot over the years, like in some other states, right? What they do, they like build desalination plants, and like the areas that are like wide open spaces that they like move new development, house development there, so as not to cram too many people in one area. Now in California, there's a lot of areas that are wide open, sometimes that are being occupied. Does the organization also look into other ways to build more housing, like open up new areas to development that are totally sparse?
Hmm. Yeah, I would say that I so I am I'm focused primarily on San Francisco, but because HAC is a statewide organization, we have organizers that handle housing and political things around housing in the South Bay and the East Bay, in LA, Sacramento, the Peninsula, and each we really try to make sure that through our programs like the project review that we're able to really understand a project before we advocate for it. And so I think that there are so many different types of geographies in California. And though I mostly deal with infill housing, like in San Francisco, there has been projects where, we see land or we see other places that are underdeveloped, and we advocate for that to be turned into housing. I think other organizers, um, within the organization that have more open land than in San Francisco with its small surface area might have better examples. But for the most part, we focus on infill, we focus on unused land and like empty parking lots that aren't really being used for anything. And yeah, trying to solve that.
The $1 billion question I always ask you,
Mhm.
there's a lot of vacant housing in San Francisco, vacant abandoned schools,
Yeah.
abandoned churches not being used. Are are there any of your organization looking into how they can get those back online?
Hmm.
Get them back and to be utilized for housing?
Hmm. Yeah, it's really funny. We definitely, um, it's really interesting. There's a lot of unused land, exactly like you were describing. And doing the analysis of how many city dollars are lost by having that land be continually unused, or how many of the property owners and like different types of resources that are going to waste because of unused land. It's it's something that I'm really digging into and trying to find those solutions of like, is this because this land has just been forgotten? Is it, hard to transfer ownership of that land? But if I'm understanding your question correctly, we're for sure keeping our eyes on those pieces. There was
Yeah,
a little bit of noise in the background, so I'm sorry if I didn't hear the question.
there's also like um, vacant housing units. Like what you
Oh, okay.
there's also some of the vacant abandoned schools that are just sitting there and not being used. And
Mhm.
um, mm, does the organization look into how they can get this to renovate those and bring them back online? Or in the case of buildings and apartments that are still sitting around not being rented, is there any way that in any plan create incentives to get property owners to start renting again those abandoned units, vacant units?
For sure. I think before we make any, big decisions to focus on any area of land, we really want to make sure, are there people living there? A lot of times tenants and people who are unhoused might look for housing sources in other ways. So we really want to make sure that we're not displacing anybody who are currently occupying those unused buildings and schools and territories. Um, and so once that comes forward, usually we hear from our partners or other advocates, hey, like I'm a developer or I'm a builder, I'm an architect, I'm a landlord, and I'm looking to turn my single family home, or I'm hoping to turn my building into an apartment to allow more tenants into the space. And at that point, after careful analysis and making sure that everything looks good to go, then we'll review the project and get involved and help in any way that we can. Sometimes that is tackling the permitting process, entitlement process, the financial feasibility of the project. So for sure we're looking at ways of maximizing the space that we have. San Francisco is not the largest city in terms of, area, but there's a lot of potential places that could easily, or maybe not easily, but that we work towards in creating homes for people.
Yeah, exactly. Now, yeah, because for example, in certain areas of San Francisco, there's a lot of cases where person then take a house and then rent out a room.
Hmm.
Yeah. I don't know if it's called common law, rental law, what the correct term for it is. But like in certain areas of San Francisco now, they've come with innovative ways to, you know, so that a person might have a house and then they rent out the garage or they rent out a room in the back or rent out other places to us to create new housing opportunities. Um, where does organization stand on?
What are there other organizations?
Where does your organization stand on the idea of increasing density by for allowing a person say with a house to say rent out the garage or rent out the backyard or rent out different parts so as to which they make it much cheaper for people somebody to get a house.
Yeah, I think the key word, like when I describe hack, is that we really want to make sure that people have flexibility to to change their home structures as they get older, right? Like there are people who are aging, and unfortunately, I think it's a reality for people to say, I'm aging out of San Francisco, right? Like I grew up here and now I'm being aged out. So turning units, like if you own a home, for example, and I know Supervisor Engardio is working towards an ADU conversion so that if you have a single family home and you want to turn a space into an ADU or a condo, like we're working towards legislation to allow you to do that so that homeowner opportunities, buyership is a little bit more accessible, that you can age um, into that smaller unit. You can keep the community that you've grown up with. You can be around family. And so we're for sure really interested and invested in creating more homeownership opportunities, more flexibility with what people want to do with their homes.
Now you mentioned on the state your organization is a statewide organization.
Mhm.
What uh, policies are you working on state level, maybe uh, laws and stuff like that to address the housing issue?
Mhm. So we are actually sponsoring 6 state bills at the moment. We are working really closely. I think Senator Weiner, we have three bills we're working on with him. We're also doing a few other um, state bills that really help boost and streamline our already existing bills, like SB 35 and SB 423. We want to make sure that these state bills are really directed to making housing um, more accessible by streamlining approvals and being able to legalize more housing types and protecting tenant rights and affordable housing near transit opportunities and just closing legal loopholes that cities use to block or delay housing projects. That's a really big part of working in the state level is so that if we have more of these protections under the state of California, then, we can prevent, having time and time again, a hearing after a hearing. And when we're able to make things a little bit more, when projects say, hey, I'm abiding by state laws, we have certainty that this is a project that's having ethical considerations and they can move forward in their process without getting bogged down by so many different types of hearings that end up delaying the process.
I will close this night and a final question. Um, I travel all over San Francisco and I see a lot of one-story building in built-up areas. Um, is that something is that something that your organization also look into? Like, how can all these underutilized spaces be you know, up zone or increase? So, like for example, in the Mission District, where the land is very solid and like a bedrock, like right at Mission and there's Mission and Valencia. And, I see a lot of high-rise building, and then I see a one-story building. It definitely that does make any sense.
Yeah.
That's something that y'all should also look into.
Yeah, we really want to make sure that we're looking at the different places that people want to build homes in and looking at the neighborhoods and looking at the state of, the city and what is going to help provide like a thriving neighborhood. And so I could speak directly to San Francisco in terms of we're actually going to be sending out some communications, asking people like, hey, like when you look around your neighborhood, like maybe we could put up flyers and it's like, do you have places? I'm looking outside my window right now. Like, do I have places around me where it's like, yeah, this is a really underutilized lot. This is a house that hasn't been occupied in years. And I would like to see maybe an apartment there so that I can have more neighbors and maybe young couples moving in. And that can only happen when legislation allows for those higher densities so that we don't have to, um, you know, keep things frozen in time.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today to shed some light and the amazing work you're doing in getting more housing built in San Francisco. Brianna, thank you so much again, and keep up the good work.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.